Clorinde kit leaks are finally here, and I am here to discuss them with you. If you have seen them, you must have noticed how it's awful to decipher, and that's why I'm here. So let's get into the tea. As always, we will start with their role just to make things easier to understand. Clorinde is an Electro sword character who ascends with crit rate. She functions as the on-field DPS character to deal the majority of the team's damage. Clorinde's normal attacks are a regular string of attacks, but this does not mean you won't be using them. She is a main DPS after all. The normal attacks are the main reason I can't actually calculate her fully yet, because we don't have their scaling. But we can still speculate. So, let's get onto her skill. It's a fucking earful. I will try to put this in the simplest way I can, so bear with me. She enters a special state that infuses her normal attacks with Electro, as well as enhancing them. Back to Bond of Life, boys! I hate this. When her Bond of Life is below 100%, it will do increased damage based on 66.1% of Clorinde's attack, as well as regenerate Bond of Life, and if you're over 100%, it will be lower. What? Arlecchino's damage increased for higher Bond of Life, and now Clorinde is getting punished? Why? Well, it's simple. It's to incentivize you to use her special attack. We are not sure how it's triggered, but we speculate it's a special sprint. Now, this will do an increased amount of damage based on her Bond of Life, and also immediately heal it away. So see where we're getting at now? We regenerate our Bond of Life using normal attacks, and then we use the special skill to get rid of it again. Very dynamic. Wowie! This ability also blocks out all healing sources from Clorinde, and the amount that she heals past her Bond of Life will instead be converted to more Bond of Life. And now for her burst. This will just be a 5-hit attack that gives her 120% Bond of Life. Very simple, but its damage is quite significant. Time for Ascension passives. The first one will give her basic attack and burst extra attack scaling if your team does Electro reactions, up to 3 times. This sounds very familiar, does it not? Yeah, this is exactly like Nouvellette. The issue with this is that a majority of Electro reactions have little use. Aggravate is okay, but it doesn't work well with other reactions. Electro Charge exists mainly to upkeep Hydro Aura, and Hyper Bloom has anti-synergy with her mainly attack scaling hit. So we're just gonna have to mash something together until it sticks. Then for the second one, it will give her 10% crit rate when her Bond of Life changes, up to 2 times, as well as allowing her to get more Bond of Life from healing. Her skill provides her with a lot of enhancements, but the thing she is enhancing is still her normal attacks, so level these both equally. Her burst is less important, but don't forget to level it. And then, like I always do, cover the signature weapon. A Bond of Life character gets a Bond of Life weapon. Unfortunate, but seeing as the mechanic is getting used more and more, it might not be as bad as we think. It is a high base attack and crit damage substat, with its passive offering more crit damage and up to 36% damage bonus when your Bond of Life increases. Unfortunately, it's niche again, but at this point, what do we expect? If you made it this far, you seem to be interested in my content, so subscribe and like if you do. Now, let's get into the most uncertain aspects of Clorinde. The teams she's going to play in. She is another Bond of Life character, which would make you think she disables Furina as a teammate, but since her heal block is only during her skill, this is not the case, making Furina the first easy slot in my opinion. This also has to come with the need for a healer, but let's first look at other supports. Electro characters have always been fans of Kazuma, so we'll add him for another reaction as well. And then the best healers that we have that also add a reaction for Furina are Baizhu, Charlotte, and Mika. Charlotte and Mika will freeze with Furina, keeping their aura consistent, but Superconduct is not that good, so Baizhu is the stronger option if you ask me. He provides you with 2 reactions in the form of Aggravate and Hyper Bloom, which removes a lot of stress for another reaction. You can also abuse this to replace Kazuo with someone like Sara or Fischl, but until we have Clorinde's normal attack scaling numbers, I cannot tell you which is better. I will still prefer Kazuo for its grouping, but Kuja Sara is going to have higher buffing, and Fischl makes reactions easier by having a more consistent Electro Aura on the enemy. Then there's also another route we can go, where we start off with Bennett. Now, because Clorinde disables her healing during her field time and Bennett requires field time to heal, Furina becomes unusable here. This leaves us with Yelan again, like with the Arlecchino Vape team, and Kazuya obviously. This team is going to be harder to balance elemental auras in, as well as being destined to be fucked with circles. And would this be a higher damaging team? To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm definitely preferring the first team so far. Now it's Constellation time. C1 will add a follow-up attack on her basic attacks that will do 2 attacks, which can trigger once per second. That's a lot of attacks, goddamn. Its combined scaling is very similar to her E's buff, but it can't proc as much, so it won't be as strong as the E itself. But it's still a good constellation. C2 is pretty boring, I gotta admit. It's very strong, as to increase her A1 buffing power quite significantly, but I cannot actually calc how much due to, no normal attack scaling yet. C4s have a history of being mid, but this one seems to be better than most of them. It will increase Clorinde's ult damage based on the current Bond of Life for up to 100% damage bonus. Since Clorinde's ult gives her Bond of Life, I hope this applies before the ult goes out. That way, it will always have its max amount of stacks and always give the 100% damage bonus. And now, there's the C6. We are back to 10% crit rate and 70% crit damage constellations like Alhaitham or Arlecchino. But there's a lot more to this C6 than just he who crit. When Clorinde is about to be hit, or whenever she uses her special attack, a follow-up attack doing 200% of Clorinde's attack will trigger, counting as a normal attack. I'm assuming this means it gets buffed by her E and her Ascension 1. This can trigger up to 6 times, which seems like a pretty logical cap given her uptime. And if that wasn't enough, it also gives Clorinde 80% damage reduction and interruption resistance during her special attack and for 1 second after that. So that means you're going to be pretty safe in most, if not every scenario. So you're going to be vulnerable for about 1 to 2 seconds. Quite a stacked C6 if you ask me. Clorinde is looking to be solid so far, and has a lot of potential looking at her team options and the current scalings we have. I hope you guys are excited for Clorinde because I know I am. Her kit looks fun and reminds me of how I thought Risley was going to start at beta. But, good, and not extremely mid. If you're excited for Clorinde as well, be sure to tell me all about it in the comments, as well as like and subscribe. I'm going to be covering Clorinde more, as well as Siegeween and Sethos. So, if you subscribe to the channel, you will get notifications for my next uploads. This is going to include content like guides, pros and cons videos, and then as well as a banner review when the livestream hits. So that's going to be all from me. Peace.